Okay, today we're down in the book of Ecclesiastes in chapter 5 and starting in verse 10. Now, this morning we're going to cover several verses because it's all on one subject, and it'll kind of bring us to a conclusion of this particular subject. Now, Solomon's writing in the book of Ecclesiastes, trying to show us what would make us happy on this earth. How should you live in order to have a happy life on this earth? Now, in order to do that, he goes in a contrary way a lot of times. And he says, now here I'm going to show you what will not make you happy. Now, the reason that he approaches it this way is because all of us have an inherent idea. We know what would make us happy. A few years ago, there was a survey taken nationwide over people of what would solve all your problems, what would make you happy so that your problems would be solved. And it came out that if somebody would give them $2,000 cash and then a 10% raise, that would do it. And they could be happy if they got that. Well, the interesting thing is it comes down to money. That's what they said would make us happy. Now, when you get to thinking about life and somebody says, what would make you happy? How could you live a happy life? Be honest with yourself and see whether money is not pretty close in there. That you would say, well, if I just had so much money, and each one of us would have a different amount, but if I had this, then I could be happy. I think it would solve all of my problems. So the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon, richest man who ever lived, he deals with all of this stuff. And he deals with what really problems an individual. And money is one of the biggest. Now, when you think about the weakness of man and how you hear people get caught up in things, I think most of us think, well, sexual sins are the most powerful. Those are the sins that you really have to watch out for. But really, that is not true. Now, you do have to watch out for them. It seems like that every time we turn around, we see on TV where some powerful individual is caught up in some kind of a sexual sin. But believe it or not, financial sins are greater than sexual sins. There are more people caught up in that, in finances, from the rich to the poor. We all think we need just a little bit more for various reasons. Now, I've not counted these verses, but I know when Scott was teaching at financial class, the guy that made those DVDs, I think he said that he had counted through the Bible and he had found about 2,300 verses on money. Is that close, Scott? Nope. Go on up. Tell us what it was.
About 5,000.
5,000. He's wrong. 2,300. Okay. My point is there's a lot of them. There's a whole lot of verses in there that has to do with money. Many, many more than there are with sexual sins. So now today he's going to tell us this. Now I want you to notice how he's going about it again. He's going to tell us what will not make us happy. What seems to me like would make me happy, it's not going to make me happy. Let's read now what he says here as you start over in verse 10. He who loves silver will not be satisfied with silver, nor he who loves abundance with increase. This also is vanity. Now, if you really love something, you're never satisfied by having enough of it. You want more, and you want more, and you want more. When you stop to think about if you really love something, that's what you try to do. You try to make sure that you have all that you can absorb of that particular thing you love, whether it's your mate or whether it's money or whatever it is. If you really love something, you never come to a point of where you say, okay, that's enough. Suppose I call Helen in this afternoon at 2 o'clock and say, honey, I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I want you to know that I love you more than any husband has ever loved a wife. I am madly in love with you. But I've decided that I'm going to move out. I've decided that I've had enough of you. It's been a real joy, honey. Been a real joy. I've really enjoyed it. I want you to know I love you, but I won't be seeing you anymore. Well, you would say, you're crazy if you would do such a thing as that. And you're right. So if you love something, you can never be satisfied with what you have. Now, so he says, make sure that you're not in love with money. Now, we talked about this last week, so we're going to move on. He said, when goods increase, they increase who eat them. So what profit hath the owners except that to see it with their eyes? We mentioned this one last week, and then we'll start on the new material. But when goods increased, what profit is there? Now, let's suppose that everybody in here had 1,000 different dresses or pants or suits in your closet. You have 1,000 that's in there. Now, if I come along and say, you know, I'm really going to bless you, and I'm going to give you 10 more new dresses today, what good would they be? How excited would you be? You say, oh, good, I get those 10 new dresses, I get those 10 new suits. Well, what are you going to do with them? You have 1,000 that you need to wear. What good will the others do except to look at them? So you put them in there and you say, boy, those are pretty. Those are really nice. So all it is just something to look at. Now, you can get that much money. When you have all the money that you need in this life, and you just keep getting more and more. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but you just keep getting more and more. Finally, you get so much that you can't possibly use it all. Suppose we take Bill Gates. Suppose Bill Gates made $100,000 today. What would it mean? What would it mean? He's got billions of dollars. Could never spend it all regardless of what he tried to do. So what good would another $300,000 do him today? Except to look at it. He'd look at his bank account and he'd say, boy, that's great, made $300,000 today. So he looks at it. So this is what he's saying. This is the factual things of life. That finally in physical things, you get what you need, and then the abundance comes in a different form. And so finally, it's just the thrill of looking at it. Then he says, 12, the sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eat little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not permit him to sleep. Now this again is a problem of a rich man. Now, all of us know what it's talking about, that a working man can sleep, and it's a sweet sleep. You work, you're so tired, you fall in bed, it feels so good, you never want to get up, you turn over, you sleep sound, you wake up in the morning, and life is really a joy. Now, that's what happens when you're really working. But now suppose you don't have to work. All you do is you are so rich, you just have to manipulate your money now. So now what do? You lay down in bed, and instead of being tired and going to sleep, you look at it and you say, now what should I do with that? What should I do with that 100,000 I have over here in this? I have this over here in Caterpillar stock. I think maybe I should sell that and move it into Microsoft. Or I think, and you're always working on what to do with the abundance that you have. Now, if you're not doing that, you're not a good steward. You're just letting it sit there and decay, and so you have to do this. But he shows the difference between a hard-working person that works and every hour on the job means a lot to them, and somebody that is a rich man, there's a lot of advantage to just that laboring. Then in 13, there is a severe evil which I have seen under the sun. Now, when you see evil, it doesn't mean evil like we think about somebody doing evil, ungodliness. It's not talking about it. It's just talking about bad. Now, there's some bad things I've seen under the sun. There are some things that are not good, which I have seen under the sun. Riches kept for their owner to his hurt, but those riches perish through misfortune. Now, I said, here's a bad situation. When you get rich, and so the owner says, okay, now I'm going to keep these riches for myself. I'm going to store them up in my 401k. I'm going to use them. And then something happens and you don't get to use them. Now, can that happen to us where our riches are taken away from us? And so he said, when you have all these riches, you have this problem. You say, okay, I have enough. I have it stored up. All the days of my life, I'll be able to eat. You remember Jesus gave a parable about that man who did that and going to build bigger barns. And he said, now then I have enough, soul, take thine ease. And you remember what Jesus called him? He said, thou fool. Well, what he's saying here is that this is a bad situation. Now, if you could work for riches, get all you need, then get double that so you'll have plenty, and then you put it over here, and it'll always be there so you can use it. Well, that'd be pretty comfortable. But that's not the way it works. Someday you wake up, and all of a sudden it's gone. And what do you do then? Now you stop to think, what is the difference between a poor man who is laboring for his wages, barely making a living, getting up every day and going to work in labor? He gets paid so much a month, and he gets paid enough to make a good living, but every month he has to go to work, and he gets his pay. Now, over here's another guy who has millions. He doesn't have to work. He has all the security that is there. He has popularity that comes with riches, has everything that goes with riches. And then some morning he wakes up, like back in the 1929 bust, in there, where the Great Depression came. What did the rich people do? Not all of them, but what did many of them do? That's where that day people were jumping out windows. They were jumping out windows in skyscrapers and killing themselves. Now, how many poor people committed suicide that day? I don't know of any. How many rich people committed suicide that day? Well, they're in the history books, and they tell about it. About in San Francisco, about people jumping out of skyscrapers when they looked at it, and it's all gone. So what Solomon is saying is, that which we believe would make us happy doesn't. It causes us problems while we're here, and it is insecure, and it can cause us great problems. Now, I might hasten to say this. If you have a choice of being in poverty and starving or rich, which you take? Well, take riches. That's a whole lot better than poverty. It's like Solomon said, wisdom is a whole lot better than being foolish. But if you think wisdom will bring you happiness, you're wrong. If you think riches will bring you happiness, you're wrong. Now then he goes ahead and he said, this guy, but those riches perish through misfortune. When he begets a son, there's nothing in his hand. As he came from his mother's womb, naked shall he return, to go as he came. And he shall take nothing from his labors. which he may carry away in his hand. So here's this real rich guy. He makes lots of money. All of a sudden, a misfortune comes upon him, a Great Depression, bad business deal, many, many things. It just came to my mind that this guy Corzine back in Massachusetts, I think, last I heard of him, why he was worth, I forget how many billions of dollars. And so he, very rich man. He was up in politics. He was the governor. He was a very great and powerful man. And so he resigned a couple years ago, and he went into business in the stock market in somehow or another. And all of a sudden it collapsed. And now then, the same thing is happening to him that happened to that Madoff back there. That there's still $1 billion missing that they can't find, and he is going before Congress this week to start asking questions under subpoena. Now here's one of the real richest men in the Northeast, powerful, rich, in every way. Would you rather be in his shoes or your shoes today? As you see, all of this has collapsed around his head. Well, this is all it's saying. He's just saying that when you put your trust in money, these are the things that can happen. It can happen around your head, and then you don't even have anything to leave your children. And so all of a sudden, they're gone. Helen tells a story about her sister marrying into this family down in California, and his parents had invested in oil wells. This would have been back in the early part of last century. And so they just checks coming in every day. And so her sister's husband was raised up from a little boy. Don't worry, you don't have to work. You got it made. We'll just pass these oil wells on to you, and you got it made. So just don't worry. And so he grew up not worrying. Oil wells, pumping. Dad and Mom giving him money. When Dad and Mom died, he's going to inherit them. No problem. Well, guess what happened to those oil wells? And so now he's a guy that is sitting there in a wheelchair. His wife, 80-some years old, having to support him. And all because there is nothing there. That's what this is saying. This can happen. Then he says, here's something that's going to happen to everybody, and this is really bad. This is, you can't escape this. Now, you might be able to get rich and keep riches all your life. You may be able to do that. But one thing is going to happen to you. As you came forth from your mother's womb naked, without anything, that's the way you're going to leave this earth. You're going to leave this earth naked. Now, he said, that's really a misfortune that we have there. Let's suppose, let's think about this for a moment. Let's play a game. Well, let's not play a game. Let's play something real life. Suppose that I called you over today and told you I want to talk to you. I want to make a business deal with you. Now, I want you to go in business, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set you up, and I'm going to put $1 million in your bank account today. And I'm going to see that you make $1 million a year. I'm going to see that you really make some. But you've got to work for it. You've got to invest it. You've got to go to work. You've got to do some things. But I'm going to see that you get all this. Now, here's the kicker. And that is, I guarantee you're going to lose it all. I'll guarantee you're going to lose it all. Because the day's coming, I'm taking it all away from you. So now I want you to work hard. I want you to really get out there and work hard. And here's what you're going to get. I'm going to take it all away from you. Now, isn't that really about what life is about? So we come in with nothing. We have our skills and we work hard and we make lots of money and we store it up and we're rich. It doesn't make any difference what we got, whether we got $5 or $5 billion. When we die, it all goes to somebody else. We don't get to keep a penny. Now, he said, keep that in mind when you're talking about riches. A minute ago, I said, let's play a game, kind of like Monopoly. How would you like to play a game, let's say like Monopoly, and the more you outwit your neighbors, the more money you make in this Monopoly game, all this, harder you work, the more you make. But there's one thing you know. At the end of this Monopoly game, you're going to lose everything. Everything is going to be gone. That's the outcome. That's what Solomon is saying. Solomon is saying, look, riches doesn't solve all your problems. He said then in 16, this also is a severe evil, that just exactly as he came, he shall go. And what profit is he who has labored for the wind? All his days he has eaten in darkness, and he hath much sorrow and sickness and anger. So all that you go through, all the suffering you go through, everything you've done in order to earn this, you're going to leave this world empty. So think about that as we think about, will riches really bring us happiness? See, will riches really bring us happiness? He said now, to give us a conclusion, he said, here is what I have seen. It is good and fitting for one to eat and drink and to enjoy the good of all his labor in which he toils under the sun all the days of his life, which God gives him. For it is his heritage. This is the heritage that God has given each one of us. As for every man to whom God has given riches and wealth, and given him power to eat it, to receive his heritage and rejoice in his labor, this is the gift of God. So he said, here's what I've seen. God, now, and now by the way, we've learned this before. He's told us this before a couple chapters ago. But he said, here's your real reward. It's not the accumulation of riches and having it in the bank, but it's the journey. It's the journey that gives you the joy. So here is what God has given us to make us happy. Here's what you need to do if you want to be happy. Now here's a big thing. If you really want to be happy, and you say, well, I really want to be happy. Okay, every one of us can find happiness in what he's getting ready to tell us here. He says, in whatever you do, you enjoy it. You enjoy what you're doing, and you enjoy the fruits of your labor. When you get paid, you can use that and enjoy it. If you can eat well, enjoy it. If you can live in a nicer house, enjoy it. Whatever it is that God has given you, you enjoy doing it, and you enjoy the fruits of your labor. You enjoy it on a day-by-day basis. Don't think about what's going to happen down at the end. Some of these days you're going to die, and then somebody else is going to get your money. But enjoy it as you go through life. That's a big thing that he tells us to learn. This is true in every realm. As I said, we've talked about before. They always say it's the journey, not the destination, that gives you happiness. Now, a lot of you are planning on a vacation next summer. And now you're already planning. You're setting the dates. You're visualizing where you're going. You're counting your money. You're working. You're saving. You may cut out your lattes so that you can do this. But it's fun. You're enjoying it. You're putting it all together. You're getting ready to go. you're getting ready for this big vacation to Disneyland this next year. It's going to be fun. But here's the problem. Once you go to Disneyland, your fun stops. And you say, well, that's not true. Yeah, it is true, too. You go to Disneyland and you just talk to the people that go there. Now then you start fighting the crowds. You go out and you get on that crowded bus. You run in and then you got to do this. You got to do that. And so you're running around and you stand in line to go into this. Then you stand in line to go into this. The day's over and you're wore out. You go back and you fall asleep. The next day you go do the same thing. About the third day you give up. You say, I'm just wore out. I'm tired. So you get in your car and you drive back up here, beating the pavement to get back home. Oh, man. And so you're really tired. But won't you really enjoy that when you come home and say, whoa, boy, I can't wait for next year. This is really a joy. No, just think about it. That's the way it happens. When you walk in that house, you say, oh, man, we're home. And that's what you hear people say when they come back. Well, a vacation would be fun if it didn't have to end. Look at the grass. It has to be mowed. Look at this and look at that. This is what the book of Ecclesiastes is about. It's not saying don't take the vacation. It's just saying this. If you're going to take the vacation, enjoy it while you're on it. That's what he's saying. Don't overdo it, whatever it is. Enjoy it while you're living the experience. And then he said, that is the gift of God. Now he said, 20, for he will not dwell unduly on the days of his life, because God keeps him busy with the joy of his heart. Now, a person that does this, a person that lives through their life and they enjoy it on a daily basis. You enjoy life as you're living. You'll not dwell unduly, which means that you will not contemplate wrong ways, wrong things. You'll not look at life in the wrong way. You'll not go through life, boy, I wish I'd have done this, or I wish I'd have done that. And one day when you are laid in your casket, the preacher could stand up and say, here's a person that wishes they had done it differently. Make sure that that's not the way you do it. And if you enjoy life as you're living it, enjoy it today. You will not unduly, inappropriately dwell on the things that are happening to you. You'll be able to enjoy life as you're going through life, rather than unduly thinking about, I can be happy next year if this happens or if that happens. I think I made a point on this a few weeks ago. Parents with children, when a baby's born, just can't wait for that baby to be born. You bring the baby home, and then all of a sudden the work begins. Oh no, 2 o'clock in the morning, wah. 4 o'clock in the morning, wah. Oh, when will we get over this stage? You get over that stage, and then another stage comes in. Oh boy, I'll sure be glad over here. Or I'll be glad over there. And we go through life in each stage looking at the bad things with those kids and not enjoying the good things. And so when we get through life, here it is, we had kids, and boy, it was not fun raising those kids. Or we can go through it looking at it. Yeah, it's a real pleasure. So whatever stage you're in, with your children, with your job, whatever stage you're in, enjoy it. Enjoy it now. That's what he's saying here in this verse. Then he goes on, he said, now there is an evil which I have seen under the sun. That is a bad thing. And it is common among men. You'll find this a very common thing. A man to whom God hath given riches and wealth and honor, so that he lacks nothing for himself of all he desires. Yet God does not give him power to eat of it, but a foreigner consumes it. This is vanity, and it's evil affliction. Now, he said we see sometimes that a person, they get rich. God blesses them with riches. They have all the riches they could possibly want. But something happens. God doesn't give them the power to enjoy it. They don't have that power. Now, what does it take to enjoy your riches? Well, I'll tell you one thing. It takes health, doesn't it? If you're not healthy, it doesn't make any difference how much money you've got in the bank. You're not going to enjoy it. And you're not going to enjoy life. So here it is. You work all your life. You become rich so you can do whatever you want to do. And all of a sudden, you're sick. And you can't enjoy it. You can't go here. You can't go there. You say, boy, that doesn't seem fair. Wow. Now he said, this is a bad thing with life. But this is what really happens. The name escapes me. It's going to give you an illustration. What's the name of that guy that built that Blue Goose airplane? Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes here several years ago built the biggest airplane that's ever been built, and it's still here. I think it's setting down in Oregon now. And so he built it. I'm going to show the government, and filthy rich, just filthy rich individual. Millions upon millions of dollars. Just filthy rich. They had everything that you could possibly have. And then, but nobody could see Howard Hughes. You always heard about him. He's doing this or he's doing that. He was a genius. You know, he's like that Jobs guy that just died, or Gates or something. He was a genius, and in the aeronautical realm. But you never saw Howard Hughes. So you listen to the news, and you heard about him all the time. His name was there, but you never saw Howard Hughes. And so finally, it came out that he was in a hotel room. I think it was down in Las Vegas. One of the upper rooms, he had just rented the whole thing. Had his servants in there, and he was staying in this one bedroom, and he was just there and eating just certain things, and only a certain man could get in. And he's in there, and the guy's crazy. But he's running the business. He's still running the business. And he's sitting there and just doing stupid, crazy things. And he didn't get to enjoy it. Didn't get to go out. Didn't get to do anything. All these millions and hundreds of millions of dollars that's out there. That's what this is talking about. Now, he was the extreme. See, he's the extreme. But the writer is telling us, just because you have money, don't think that's going to bring you happiness, because it can be just exactly the opposite thing. Okay, class dismissed.